everyone. Welcome to Songwriter Spotlight. My name is Sonia and I'm your host this evening. We are coming to you from the West Tennessee Delta Heritage Center in Brownsville, Tennessee, the home of the bluesman Sleepy John Estes home, the West Tennessee Music Museum, and the Tina Turner Museum. We're so glad that y'all chose to join us tonight. Thank you for being with us. It is my pleasure tonight to introduce you to a music legend. He has been a sideman for some of the most recognizable names in music, as well as a great performer in his own right. He's been a friend to songwriters and musicians who have wanted to hone their skills and practice their trade. And I am fortunate, very fortunate, to be able to call him a friend. Please help me welcome to the Songwriter Spotlight, Mr. Billy Weir. Mr. Billy, you know it is a pleasure for me to have you here tonight. Thank you for being on our Songwriter Spotlight.
Shoot, it's my pleasure. I love being here.
Let's talk a little bit about how you actually got into music.
I originally got into music. I fell into it at the age of 15. I was at a school where they had some young rock artists that were really breaking ground, and of course Humes High School. And I got hired by a band from Arkansas who turned into be a local celebrity and national celebrity, and we would ride around in the cars and we would sing and we would write songs and we would learn, that's how we learned harmonies, and we learned to write songs because Jimmy wrote the first song that Conway Twitty ever recorded in the car, and then we'd get to motels or hotels and traveling, and we played a lot of music. It was a good clean group, and the music was really, really good, and we had some good musicians. So I got exposed to it at an early age in the writing end of it. I didn't write specifically because I was always in the singing, wanting to play and wanting to be the world's greatest drummer. But I was around artists that wrote, and I picked up on a lot of the things that they did, and I found out some of their tricks of the trade, but everything has to be commercial. They called it commercial, was the word that they used. You look for hook lines, sayings, particular cliche words. I've got a couple of songs that I've written. I wrote specifically from a saying. I remember one time in a certain situation, I kissed this lady on her cheek, and she'd been crying because she was leaving the area and departing from work, and I got the taste of her tears, and I called that's a song. And so I fell into it and found out how the others were doing it, and it became natural. So I probably had, by the time I started in my studio, I probably had 30 or 40 songs that I'd written. That some of them were B songs, some of them were C songs, just fillers. But that's how I got into it.
So I just want to clarify a little bit for the folks who are listening that the group that you joined as a drummer when you were 15 years old was Harold Jenkins and the Rockhousers. And everyone knows Harold Jenkins now as Conway Twitty. So that's where you started, but you were originally from Jackson, Tennessee, right?
Born and raised in Jackson, Tennessee.
And went to Memphis at what age?
At the age of 14, I went there in the 9th grade, so that would make me 14, 15.
Just in time to be part of a music revolution.
Just in time. It seemed like months after I got there. And my mother and dad were brave enough to get me a set of drums because I had played drums in the high school band at Jackson, Tennessee, and Jackson Junior High School, Parkview School out on East Chester. So I went into music early at an early age, really. Actually, the first grade, I played rhythm sticks and a sand block.
Okay, well, let's talk about the first song that you're going to play for us tonight. What was the inspiration and the story behind that song?
The first song that I'm going to play for you, it's called "I'm Good With That." That's a saying that everybody says, "I'm good with that." And I recorded a track for a Canadian that had a song similar to what I wanted to do, and it gave me, I says, this fits in that. So I took my guitar, and that's how I'm going to explain it to you. I picked up my guitar, wrote another song, best one yet. Didn't take long, just another story of how I made it through. On the music row I hang my hat, I'm good with that. Picked up my pencil the day you left me cold, wrote a hurting song, it turned to gold. Checks were coming in, I throwed them to the wind. I've got this hurt down pat, I'm good with that. I write about fights and tears and things we've thrown, love we had, good and bad, where and when we're wrong. Everybody knows you took my cat. I cried all the way to the bank, and I'm good with that. The cars and the homes, the songs that I've sold, I've become a legend, so I've been told. Should you want a rook, you can buy my book. I'll be in the pool out back, I'm good with that. I told about the night you tried to burn my guitar. It was good for me, you couldn't see, I made it to the car. I lost that big smile when I saw the hole in my hat. How gone are the days, I'm good with that. That's what you do when you take a phrase and add something to it.
When did you write that song?
I wrote it about 2 years ago. I've actually worked on it 2 or 3 times. Songs don't instantly become what you want out of them when you write them. You have to, it's just like a good pot of something. You put it on and let it stew a while and you think about it and then you go back and revisit it. And so until the last 2 weeks did this song come into being again. And even after cutting the original, I went back and recut the vocal the past week or so.
Talk a little bit more about what inspires you. You talked about phrases and cliches, but where else does the music come from?
Music comes from the heart, experiences. It comes from relationships. It can be a town, Frank Sinatra in Chicago. It's just whatever sort of grabs you, and sometimes it's hard to explain the difficulty and how you relate to a song. But if broken romances, there's just a connection there. But we hear it. It's hard to explain. Girl from Ipanema, golly, where'd that come from? You know, and I have played all types of music, so therefore I am genderless.
Do words come to you first, or do you just start picking on your guitar and then it all just kind of seems to come together?
No, the words generally come to me first. Melodies, I can make, they flow really easily to me. When you play concert bands and everything, the orchestration and everything, you can hear it in the back of your head. It's like a house you build and you can see it finished before you lay the bricks.
Are you setting aside time each day to write and to play, or are you just kind of taking the inspiration as it comes?
That's where it just comes so easy to me. And setting it aside, if it hits me, I write it down. I write it down. I don't set it aside any particular time.
Okay. Well, what about the next song? Tell us about your next song.
I'm working on a vinyl long play for myself. It may be a vanity, who knows, but it's going to be everything that I wrote and some of the songs I wrote specifically for it. And this next song is called One Word, and I wanted a doo-wop song. You wouldn't even think I'd want a doo-wop song, but anyway. You want to date around and meet other guys. You broke my heart last night when you said goodbye. You want to spread your wings, fly like a bird. I sung the saddest song, and it only had one word. Here's where you go. The whole song goes, I'm blue. This is the one word. Blue. I'm blue. So blue. Last night I drove around, just me and myself. Cruise the old drive-in, you were with someone else. I guess you've spread your wings, fly like a bird, and left me the saddest song, a song with just one word. Oh, I'm blue. I'm blue. I'm blue. Sorry, I have to add a few sound effects in there. It wouldn't be a doo-wop song without the go on or the doo-wop or the. I do high voices too, so. and I wrote that specifically because I did want a doo-wop song. I was doing more 50s. My era coming up was 50s, 60s, so I geared some of it to the 50s, 60s, even though some of the others are not.
Well, you started out in music as a drummer. How did you make the transition to a guitar?
It was a necessity. I went into the Air Force and I couldn't carry my drums. So the very first place I went, they had this guitar that it was sort of a barracks guitar. You could buy it and you could play it and you could learn on it, but you couldn't carry it with you. You had to sell it before you left. And I thought probably it was about the 15th or 20th owner of it. And between being self-taught and a little taught by others, I started picking it up for the first time. And of course, after going on the road, after I came out of the Air Force, I worked with enough musicians. They showed me good music and progressions. I do know my guitar. I may not play it well, but I don't have a problem with knowing the music to it. So that's how I write. I can write with the guitar.
So how many guitars do you own?
That's an embarrassing question. I have my wife here. I do have maybe 10 or 12. I have acoustics, I have Fenders, I have Taylors. This is probably one of my favorites. This is a Martin, and if you look inside of it, it has a little thing in there that says special. So I'm not sure what model it is, except it does sound good.
What about the signature on it?
The signature is Ronnie Hawkins. He is a 50s artist that left the United States, went to Canada. He is their Elvis. He is one of the 3 that has received Canada's highest award. And my daughter Wendy and I went to see him year before last, and he signed it, and it says, "To a big drummer, rock on, Ronnie Hawkins." And
How'd you first meet him?
I met him in Fayetteville, Arkansas. He was going to the college there, and he was trying to be a rock star at the same time too. And he and Conway became good friends. And I actually played some music with Ronnie, and we have kept in touch. Believe it or not, he went on to form the band, which became Levon Helm and that group that went with Bob Dylan. But anyway, Ronnie Hawkins is the one that started that band. I'm glad you saw that. I hadn't even thought about that in a while.
Well, while we're talking about those days, let's talk about the first song that you wrote.
Okay, the first song I wrote was about a girl that I met in the Air Force, and she was very nice, good family. It wasn't a fleeting romance, it was a year-long romance, and her father got transferred back to California, left me by myself, and she told me, she says, "I'm going to light a flame for you in the church." And I says, "Oh." So that very year I wrote one called "The Day We Said Goodbye." It goes, "The tiny flame in the chapel, does it still burn so true? But time burns away memories. I guess that happened to you. The years could never hide your memory from mine. I made you this promise the day we said goodbye. A part of my heart will always be for you. That's exactly what I promised. Do you remember too? Where would we be? I often wondered if I had not left you. Running through the fields of love, the way we used to do. You're only a memory, my eyes begin to swell. This room is dark and lonely. You said the time would tell. You're only a memory, my eyes begin to swell. I might have left. There's breaks interludes in these songs. Did I tell you who recorded that for me?
No, why don't you share that with us?
I actually got to record that song, the very first one. You think that I had to wait till I got out of the Air Force to record any because fortunately that just didn't work out. So I called this friend we've mentioned before, Harold Jenkins. I called him. I says, "Would you cut me a demo? I want to try to go to Nashville and do some good stuff." He says, "Okay, come on out here." He was in Oklahoma City, and I drove to Oklahoma City. He put me up in a motel. I got to fly around in his Twitty bird, and while I was there, a nice visit, and we went into the studio. My rhythm guitar player that day was Harold Jenkins or Conway. My steel player was Lou Houston. He was one of the Lonely Blue Boys. Joe Lewis was my bass player, and Tommy Porkchop Markham was my drummer. So when you go to Nashville with that band behind you, anyway, they helped me record it, and several other songs that did get me to go into Nashville, where I did get to cut a single there.
Are you planning on doing a re-release of that vinyl now that vinyl is making a resurgence?
Oh yes, I've already checked into it, and we're waiting. We're actually doing some final editing on it and recutting the vocals. My voice has gotten stronger, believe it or not. My fingers still get sore because I don't play that much, but my voice has improved. So we're redoing the vocals on it, and yes, it will be released hopefully within this year sometime. I'm waiting on voices now to put on there before.
Well, let's talk about how people can find and hear more of your music.
I have a website, www.gumballstudio.com. Right now, the only thing you can buy on there is my books, plus CDs.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your books. They chronicle a little bit of history.
I also have been blessed with a very good memory. Short-term memory is getting worse, but my long-term memory is excellent. And the day I left and went on the road with Conway Twitty, I started writing, remembering, and when I go on stage with Trey Twitty and other these people that look into my background, I get to tell. They ask about these stories, and that's one reason they do, because I tell the stories on the road that I had with him, with Elvis's band. I traveled as drummer for him for a while. The Big Bopper, I've got to back these people up, and so I wrote about those things the first. And then Jimmy Luke, I met Jimmy Luke after 55 years. Jimmy Paulman he was Conway's guitar player. So a mutual friend called me and says, "Have you talked to Jimmy lately?" I said, "Jimmy, I've been trying for 4 years to get a hold of Jimmy so that he could give me some information on my book." And he said, "Well, let me give you his phone number." I said, "Phone number?" I said, he said, "Yes, it's 731 something." I said, 731, that's this area here. So I called it, and the first thing Jimmy said to me was, "Billy, I thought you were dead." And I said, "No, that's good." So I write about that, and then after Jimmy, I started this saying, "Here we go again." And here we go again. I thought my career had ended at that time. But Jimmy sparked me, he sparked him. He's a very invigorating person. He was fortunate enough to be on Dick Clark's bandstand and a lot of big shows, and he's actually quite an entertainer. And there's a resurgence, here we go again. So that's been the title of my second book, and that's also going to be the title cut on my EP or LP, whatever you want to call them. It's Here We Go Again.
I'd love to hear the story behind your next song, Father's Hands.
I have a little girl named Wendy. Wendy is now, I'm not going to tell you how old she is, but she has gotten older and has her first grandchild. So I wrote a song about her. And it actually turned into be a gospel song or a Christian song, because I took her hand so she could stand. And I said, "Are you ready?" She smiled, reached out for me. She trusted her daddy. She took her first steps, and then she fell. Got up and tried again. And next time she fell, she was closer to her daddy's hand. Then one day, he called my name. my past didn't bother. I turned around, he reached for me. I trusted the Father. I took my first steps, then I fell. Got up and tried again. Next time I fell, I was closer to my Father's hand. Precious Lord, take my hand and hold me till I'm steady, just like I did with my little girl until she was ready. Lord, I trust you like she trusts me. Would you hold me one more time? I need to see your hand reaching out for mine. He's the one, he knows your name. He knows the falls you've taken. He's the one who told you, son, your load won't be too heavy. You're now his child, you're not alone. He's where he's always been. Just let me see my Father's hands reaching out for mine. Just let me see my Father's hand reaching out for mine. Precious Lord, take my hand, take my hand.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I hope that you've enjoyed Mr. Billy Weir. His stories are always so interesting to me, and he was a part of such history back in the 50s and 60s. So I hope you have enjoyed it as much as I have. Please join us again on the first and third Thursday evenings as we spotlight more songwriters of the West Tennessee area. Mr. Billy, thank you so much for being here tonight and sharing some of your original music with us.
Well, it's been my pleasure. You know that. I never thought I would probably get to say anything about these songs, but you made me feel very comfortable here doing this, and I've really enjoyed it.
When do you expect your new album to be available?
Hopefully this year sometime.
You mentioned the title of the new album and the title of your book are the same. How about playing us out with that title song?
Okay. Let's see. I heard the news today about an old rocker on a comeback tour, and he's a showstopper. His jump is not as high as he was back then, but now that young ones love him so, here we go again. Not long ago we were playing shows, fighting girls who wanted to tear